Hi, welcome back to the channel. Since we didn't post a video today, today's video is going to be a combination of day 8 and day 9. And today's focus will be value additions for notes on society and social justice. So let's begin. As per the schedule that we've given you for the covering the subtopics of society, social justice and some parts of economics, day 9 was supposed to be ideally the end of these topics. So what I expect that by today you would be finished with reading each of the top subtopics at least once, revising them more than once, and have made some brief notes, preferably in editable format. So the focus of today is going to be now what you are going to add to those notes. See, we already know that you need to be able to stand out. There are a couple of ways to stand out. One is your introduction. Second is your conclusion. Third, where you can be a bit more innovative, is your examples. And for a lot of answers, the basic points remain the same. Where you are able to provide a value addition is through quotes, diagrams, very relevant new examples, things like that. So today we are going to focus on this part of the paper. So how are you going to do that? There are two ways to do it. One is using newspapers and notes of other toppers or other people. The second is using toppers answer sheet. So I will take the newspaper part later. Let's focus on toppers answer sheet and what I mean by that. So since you have also finished today's day 9, you also have to focus on writing PYQs properly now. Till now you have been thinking out loud, giving 2 minutes rough drafts of PYQs. From today, as you finish the syllabus, for the next 2 days, what you will focus on is writing all of the PYQs of these subjects. The problem is there is no answer, model answer from UPSC. UPSC doesn't provide one. So what happens is you usually use coaching material, kind of like this one. They give model answers to all your PYQs and you can copy from that. But I don't like this method. There are a lot of ways. Some of them is this. See, these answers are typed out in an A4 sheet and they try to cram as much points as possible in it so that you can get a wholesome picture and pick and choose what you want. The problem becomes, first of all, a lot of the information is outdated in the sense that a lot of people will be using the same information. Secondly, this will not give you a good idea of how you should have been filling the paper, because the answer sheet doesn't look like this. It's not an A4 size sheet. The answer sheet looks like this. So you don't get a picture of how much you are supposed to write or how much words you can write when you're writing this. Another problem is that you don't get good examples. As I said, from others' answer sheets you can grab good examples and also understand how they are to be used. I find that in a lot of coaching institutes model answers, you don't get a good understanding of how to use examples to your benefit. And 2 more points, one that I've already lightly touched. Using others' answer sheets gives you a better variety of what to use. And the most important thing that I find is, if there is a handwriting involved, subconsciously you trust it more, and subconsciously you get a better idea of how to write it and how you should have represented such things, which you don't get in such fonts. What I used was, IAS Hub used to have these handwritten model answers by toppers. You can use that, or if there is any other coaching institute doing the same thing, you can do that. Yes, according to what you could write in the paper, because let's be realistic, it's only 150 to 250 words max that you can write in the paper. These are still too big, but they are way better than the other typed out answers. You get an idea of how you should utilize space, how you should highlight, how you should be brief. Grammar is less important than correctness of your answer or utilization of your example, language, things like that. So I would really suggest, if you can, use these as model answers, not this type of it. When you're using it, what I want to highlight is how to utilize this. First you will obviously write your own answer and then you will compare yourself to this. It will give you a way better idea of what you could have written. But in that, please understand that these were written by people who had the time and the mind space and the hindsight to know what worked. You don't. What you need to take away from this, let's see, yeah, what you need to take away from this should be three things. Can you make your writing briefer than whatever you had written now? If you will see here, look at it. Positive impact of work from home families. We discussed this a couple of days ago. Look at how small the introduction is. If you'd written the same point, could you have made it this small? What could have been the introduction? Could be that yours is better. Doesn't matter. It's more about could you have done it briefer. Second, examples. If you will see, they have not positive impact. They have not used examples for every point. They have used some keywords, for example, cultural values, which they have highlighted, family strength, flexibility, and where possible, they have used examples. Third point, this gives you a better idea of what you could have done presentation wise. This does not mean this is the best presentation. This does mean that this what you could have done, maybe you have done it better. Thirdly, what you shouldn't take away from it is, again, they have written a lot of things. This is a lot. You don't have that time in the paper. You don't have that space in the paper. You are using maximum 150 to 250 words. You only get max 7 minutes to write this answer. You will never be able to write this much. So please don't be bogged down by it, but this is way preferable method of writing than any typed out model answers. Use them, but I would suggest this is a better alternative. Plus, because these are model answers, this is more or less the only way you will be able to gauge yourself against other toppers as far as the main paper is concerned. Now, this was a brief of using these model PYQs as answer sheets. We are trying to come up with handwritten versions of our own. We will upload that as soon as we can. Now let's come to the main topic for today, newspapers and note taking for value addition. I showed you these answers. You could have value added from this. For example, let's take analyze the salience of sect vis-a-vis Indian societies, caste, region and religion. In this, what you could have used is the examples they have used. Because as I said, let's say your society is not your main paper or you are not familiar with it before UPSC, so you don't have a lot of examples, good examples. They, especially people who had sociology, anthropology, etc. as optional, they have good examples to the subject specific. So use their examples. Get those examples from them. Please, please, please understand that you cannot copy everything. But after you have written your answer, you can see some of the points that you could have used, some of the examples that you could have used, incorporate them in your brief notes as I had shown you earlier, like these. So if you will see these parts I took from others toppers notes and answer sheets. The usage of Gita sayings, some of the data points, all of these were taken from others' examples, since I had limited knowledge of some of the facts and how to utilize them, even some of the quotes. So you can use others toppers answer sheets uploaded on websites like Vision Forum, etc., and also use model answers published by toppers. The one I showed you was from IAS Hub. You can use any other if they are available. Now let's go to how to use newspapers in your note taking for value addition purposes. See, you have to be very, very, very economical when it comes to what you can take from a newspaper. Most of it is not to be used. What I'm going to show you is a demo of how that is done. So let's take today's newspaper. You will see on the main like this. So if you see today's newspaper, you will think that this is something that you should definitely make notes on. Citizenship is a part of JS2 syllabus, and since it has been in use, it feels important. But for me, I categorize newspaper notes in 3 parts. Any news can be categorized as 3. One is what you need to be able to make notes from. Other is to understand and read only. You should definitely read this news. You should understand from it the context and the application of some things, but never make notes from it, because mostly you will get it from other sources. Third is discarded. Just don't glance at these things. You look at today's news, there's the citizenship one and the definition of a foreigner, etc. Understand this one. On and off, NRP, census and NCC, etc. have been in news, CAA. So you already have a lot of this data from newspaper magazines and coaching materials. Furthermore, this will also be covered in most newspaper magazines, and that will give you a way better structured answer than whatever you can get from here. So read this, but don't make notes. Similar for this one, impeachment of a judge is an important topic. This feels very important that you should know everything here, but the truth is you already know most of the things here. Removal of judges is an important topic both in prelims and mains. You know the steps, you know the procedure. You will not get anything new from here. Just read only. What you can do is learn the name of the judges so that you can use it in an example if and only if an impeachment proceeding has started or has concluded. Don't say that they are thinking of starting an impeachment proceeding. That's a useless value addition to your answer. Similar to Justice Shekhar Kumar, there is, I think, talks of impeachment again in Delhi High Court judge also, so you can keep a track of his name also. So this is also read only. This is not useful to you. This is, so we'll circle back to it. There is SAM project not required, not required, not required. Now this news is a lot in news. You don't need it, especially because no crime has been proved. You can keep an eye out and maybe use this as an example in ethics and degrading moral values, but nothing that you can make notes of as of yet. So no. Now this is the news that is important here. He is the only second Indian to be going to space. One is obviously Rakesh Sharma. So this project, Subham Shukla, and the upcoming Gaganyaan project all become important. UPSC has asked in GS3 direct questions from science like Chandrayaan 3, structure, etc. So this is an important news. There is not a lot of data point you need to know here, but you need to remember these two names, these two missions. And when it comes up in reading material, in coaching material, etc., you can pick more data points from there. Apart from that, you can go with, none of this is useful. So here, if you see the explanation page, not something that you need to make a note of. Read them, definitely read them, but don't make notes of it. What you need to make note of is this term, T20. Why? So that when you're writing solutions or giving forward-looking answers to countering terrorism measures, you can use it. You don't need to know a lot about it because it's not an established body as of yet to read the whole thing, but the note will be only the word T20. One tip I will give you is this paragraph here. If you will see, they have used the way Kant's categorical imperative works for what is ethical and what is not beautifully. You don't need to use this example. You don't need to learn this, but if you are having issues with understanding concepts in ethics, etc., and philosophy, etc., you can use this as an example of how it's done. That's about it for the whole page. Similar for this news, a new base year. You need to understand this rule, so read it. Don't make notes from it. You don't need it. Same for this news. This maybe you can use the what is happening as Ashoka University an example of freedom of speech and expression. So you need to know this news in passing. Maybe read it. No need to make notes. That's about it from the whole paper. So if you will see, this is read this definitely. Most of the notes, again, coaching institutes have newspaper magazines. You can take from there, directly structured. You should know the name. Same for tardigrades. Definitely read these. These are important animals that have been used in previous missions also, so you should be familiar with the name tardigrades and what they mean. No need to make notes here. So if you will see, in the whole page paper we only made notes of 3 to 4 words. Axiom 4, S. Shukla. There is something happening at Ashoka University that you can use maybe. There is a murder case which maybe you can use, but you don't need to write because it's a murder case, it will be in your memory. Similar for Ashoka University. And tardigrades. T20. This is all the 4 words you needed to know from this newspaper. Literally, you don't need to make notes on this. This is it you needed as far as you needed to make value addition from the newspaper. That's it. Do not go beyond this. What I do want to show you is sometimes there does come news in a paper that you should take notes from. So I will give an example of that now. This is from the 8th June paper. Okay, one thing more is about data points. We think that we should take all the data points from paper. They will be the latest and can have maximum value. No. Any correct data from an authentic government source which is more or less updated works. It does not need to be so up to date that it happened last week, last year, last month. No. For example, you can use the economic survey, you can use the census data, even though it's from 2011. You can use the NHFS data. You can use the NCRB data. Some of that is outdated, some of that is not. You can use it because it's valid data. Second point, you think that you should need to be accurate. Let's say 76.03 or 78.41. You need to remember this percent exact. No. If you say approximately 77%, correct. Above 70%, correct. Around 80%. All these three are a correct representation of this data point. It works. Now, why I think this particular news is important and how to make notes from it. I think on this page, two important news came up on 8th June and you should be familiar with both. One was about relics of Buddha. First, because this has been on and off in news and something connected to it last month also. Second, it's a very major event and can be used in arts and culture answers. Thirdly, lots of time Buddha's stupa, etc., structure, etc. is asked. So you can definitely use this, read this properly, see if you can pick any news from it. Now, the one that I would prefer that you make notes from is this one. Election and election process is an important topic when it comes to GS2. In this particular news article, the Election Commission itself has explained how it maintains transparency, the steps it takes for independence and transparency in data points. You don't need to use all the data points, you do need to use these headlines and some of the data points within it. If you can think, for example, this is a good example of what you could have used. Yes, proposal. What happens is a lot of this will be covered in newspaper magazine. So why am I highlighting this one particularly? Because this is from ECI themselves. There is a possibility that the material used by coaching is not as up to date or have as much context point as the ECI itself can give. So I would really suggest use this news and make notes from it, but not a lot of it, enough to sufficiently answer this topic. How EC maintains transparency and visibility, data points and methods and other suggestions. See, it has mentioned 2 to 3 reports. You can definitely utilize them and things like that. So this is how you use newspapers for value addition. Now, we have covered note taking from others answer sheets, especially toppers, model answers and answer sheets uploaded, and from newspapers. Since today is day 9, hopefully you will be finished with all your syllabus for society and social justice. One more thing in newspaper, last thing that I wanted to add was this. See, this also feels like an important news since census will be happening next year and etc. This news you read for context, read only. The notes, again as I said, will be made by coaching magazines, newspaper magazines, not coaching, sorry. So this is about it for today. Tomorrow what we will be discussing will be PYQs. I will discuss all the PYQs of society and social justice one by one and give you pointers on how you could have written it. If you like the way I covered the newspaper, I can try and do it every day. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.